All right, why don't we get underway? I want to welcome everyone to our next installment of Teacher Talks. These are broad-based conversations on best practices for teaching ELs in remote and hybrid learning. And we welcome your questions and your participation throughout this webinar. Today, I am delighted to be joined by two educators. Abby Osborn is a proud former student at Tahoe Lake Elementary and North Tahoe High School. And after working in early childhood education and kindergarten for 10 years, she made the change and moved into teaching ELD at Tahoe Lake in 2015. And then I also want to welcome Tara House. She's the coordinator of ELD and accountability for Tahoe Truckee Unified School District in California. And for those of you not familiar with the geography of California, that is a beautiful mountainous area in the eastern part of the state on the border with Nevada, with some great ski resorts and just beautiful country all around. So welcome to you both.
Thank you.
Thanks. Hi, everybody.
So one of the first things I want to do really is, and I'm just going to X out of the slide so we can just see each other better. Tara, why don't you just tell us a little bit more about the school district, the population, and your current teaching environment?
Yeah, sure. So we have a really big geographical area, but a pretty small school district, about 4,000 kids. English learners, we have between 500 and 600 each year, and it's about, 15%. And we have been really, really focused in our district on speaking and listening, especially academic conversations. So we'll talk a little bit about that. And we have, we're really fortunate that we have a ELD coordinator at each site. And that coordinator coordinates the ELD classes, may not be teaching all of the ELD classes if there's too many kids, but they are there to coordinate and help kind of coach around ELD as well.
That's great. And Abby, tell us about your specific teaching environment and what grade levels you teach.
So I teach kindergarten through 4th grade ELD at our elementary school, and focusing mostly now that we've moved into hybrid, but for ELD, I'm still all remote. So I'm doing it all virtually.
Wow, that's a lot for such a young age. Must be hard to engage them. Well, and I know people are tuning in from all over the country. We've got Massachusetts ELD teachers and Honduras, somebody from Connecticut. And what I'm going to do now is launch our first poll, because I want to know what their teaching environment is like. So you can see the poll on your screen. What is your current teaching environment? Are you in person? Are you remote? Or are you hybrid? And I know from my own school district for my children, started out as all remote, but starting next week, my daughter goes to school a couple days a week. So we're moving into hybrid. And it's interesting to see how that's rolling out all over the country. We have a couple people from Massachusetts area. Welcome to Kristin from Haverhill, and actually another Reem from Haverhill as well. That's a town just about 40 minutes north of here. All right, I'm going to end the poll, and remote is the primary teaching environment right now. So 67% of you all on this webinar are teaching remote. So this is great, because obviously Abby's been teaching remote and we'll have a lot of things to share. So I want to know then, on knowing that, Abby, and knowing that that's the majority of the people on this call who are in this webinar, want to understand, how have you altered your face-to-face instruction and strategies for your EL learners in remote?
So I personally have been focusing mostly on speaking and listening. We have a lot of other programs that the students are using for reading and writing practice. And I actually feel like they're getting lots of writing practice right now in distance learning, just because the nature of the beast, they're doing a lot more typing. But yeah, so we're focusing mostly on speaking and listening. And I try and do an academic discourse activity one day. I'm actually meeting with students now. Since we've switched to hybrid, I'm only meeting with them 2 days a week. And so on one day we focus on academic discourse, and then on the second day we focus on a listening activity.
And do the two tie together at all? Is the topic related in both the academic discourse and the listening?
Yeah, so we're doing choice boards. I'm not sure how many of our audience are familiar with that, but
why don't you can explain it briefly? Many of them probably are.
Yeah, so we're focusing on choice boards with a speaking and listening column, a reading and write. We're speaking. I'm sorry, Tara. Now I'm blinking. It's speaking, listening, reading, writing. Right? Those are 4 columns.
Yeah.
And then a video usually that they can watch independently, or something for their project. And then with this choice board, it's focused on an overall project that is their own choice. So right now my groups are working on a how-to video. They're so from 2nd grade on, they're doing their own how-to video. And so this week for our project, we were having our conversations based on something that they're an expert at, and then building on their conversations about whatever they're an expert on. And then for the listening, they listen to a Listenwise activity.
That's great. Yeah, one of our attendees just asked about some examples of how you do academic discourse remotely, and I think you explained it well. You get them talking about something that they're an expert on. Tara, what about you from a high level view of the strategies you've seen working well across English learner programs in both remote and hybrid?
Yeah, well, it's been really interesting. At first, we really struggled with our English learners in remote learning. And then as time went on, we got better at making sure everybody was in. And then we got better at delivering interesting and engaging content. And Listenwise helps there because all of the stories, like the kids really are interested and like them. I talk a lot with all of the coordinators. So my middle and high school coordinators were the ones who really wanted Listenwise at the beginning because they were already using the free version and they could see like if they had some of these extra scaffolds and things that would make a big difference for students. And then what we've done since the very beginning, because we work really closely with Stanford, the Understanding Language group, we take their strategies and use them with the Listenwise content. So yes, we might use like a whole lesson that's in Listenwise, but we also will add, collaborative conversation or, a conversation prep activity or something that goes with it so that they're also getting that person-to-person, student-to-student dialogue.
So are you working with Jeff Swears at Stanford and his team?
Yes, we work with Jeff really closely. He actually just moved to Truckee, so we snagged him for our personal understanding language guru. And then we also work really closely with Stephen Weiss, who was one who gave us the strategy. I think that Abby's going to talk a little bit about.
Yeah, Swears' book on academic discourse is exactly what I think you're referring to, with a lot of amazing strategies on how to build conversations, set up students for having academic language success. And it's interesting to hear how you pair that with Listenwise resources, which we'll hear a little more in a minute. But yeah, that's exciting.
Well, we love having the listening right there because then every student has access and they have a higher level of access than they would if they were just reading some content that they then later had to have a conversation.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's talk a minute about some of the challenges before we move into more of the strategies. I'm curious about what the biggest challenges have been for teaching in this environment. And I'm going to put up another poll and share it with you because I want to hear what your challenges are as well. What are they in this current remote or hybrid situation? So got a list of things, and I see first person jumps right to the all of the above. I mean, I think that there's probably a little bit of everything in there, but certainly the list of challenges in this situation is long, and going from everything from technology to responsibilities to family. I'm curious to hear from you. How about you, Abby? What do you see in this list that speaks to you?
I think, as Tara said, initially it was just trying to get in touch with students, just trying to get them online. Our district has done a really good job of trying to address that. But then now it's just, lack of engagement, I think, is an issue. I think that there's just a little bit of burnout now. So trying to keep it exciting for them is a challenge for me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. What strategies do you see have worked, Tara? Have you heard from some of your teachers?
Yeah, I think what really helped was actually keeping kids in a meeting longer. We were doing like short meetings and then having the kids work a lot independently and thinking that we couldn't really have kids just, be in meetings all day. And actually, once we did kind of require them to be in meetings a little bit more, a little longer, it was like, oh, this is real. Like I'm not just missing a half an hour meeting, I'm missing a 2-hour meeting. And that for some reason feels more grave. Also, they're getting more work done, like with their teacher there, even if the teacher has them in a breakout room working independently and they're working with a small group, the kids are just getting more done, being more engaged in the work they have to do. So that's good. And we didn't anticipate doing ELD remotely, but when we went hybrid, we were having so many successes with remote, and we wanted to keep them going. And the kids have been great. So that transition has been good.
That's excellent. Well, Abby, tell us, how are you working on academic language in remote? What are what resources have been valuable? What strategies have you been using?
So a lot of the strategies that Jeff Zweers covers in his book are kind of my go-to handbook as far as conversations, and then we've been doing little breakouts. One strategy that I love just for like a pre-writing strategy, or even for a summary, like even after listening to a Listenwise story, is stronger and clearer. So they speak with one partner, and they maybe they write it in the chat for an older group, but for the younger groups, I just have them say their idea first, and then they go out into a breakout room and speak with one partner, and they build on their idea a little bit more and get it a little bit stronger, and then they do another breakout room and go with a different partner and try and strengthen their idea a little bit more, and then they come back to the whole group, and hopefully they have a stronger idea of whatever their maybe their small writing piece is going to be, or their hypothesis for for watching a science video, or their prediction of what's going to happen next, or if they're summarizing, they just have a stronger and clearer idea, and they get the chance to repeat it multiple times. So that's one strategy that I love.
I love hearing how you do it in breakout rooms, because that's almost like a turn and talk normally, right? It would be noisy in the room. They'd be speaking to the one person and then move to another. But it sounds like it's been very effective in remote, because you can just immediately say, okay, switch breakout rooms.
Yeah. And they've actually done really well with it. Even my second graders are doing really well with the breakout rooms. I'm proud of them.
Yeah, from a teacher development standpoint too, we've been asking teachers to record some of those conversations, and then doing some teacher development where we analyze those conversations. And actually, Jeff Zweers, we're very fortunate, has been joining us for those conversations to see, what are kids actually doing, and we're recording, and like for our own growth as educators, like, what are we going to do next?
That's fantastic. And I guess, Abby, how do you plan on what's synchronous and what's asynchronous? We were just talking about an activity that is synchronous, and it sounds really engaging and working well. What do you tell the students to do in the breakout rooms when maybe, as Tara said, sometimes it's better you leave them alone to work on something that is, or maybe you said you're seeing your students only 2 days a week on Zoom, right? Mm-hmm. What's happening the rest of the week asynchronously, and how do you break that down?
So using the choice boards on the days that they are not meeting with me, they actually have a few hours in the morning because we have a shortened schedule for their hybrid. So for their hybrid days. So I'm expecting them to do at least one activity from their choice board on the days when they are not meeting with me, which is maybe watching a video, maybe calling family members to engage in a conversation with somebody about whatever our theme is or our project that we're working on. I'm trying to think of some other writing a note to somebody in their family. But they're small, short, easy activities that they can do independently that I hope are fun and don't feel like work, that have intrinsic value to them. So that's my goal.
That's great.
Yeah. Oh, we taught a summer school ELD, and Jeff Zweers again actually helped us kind of with that curriculum to make sure that it was like more project based, and that I think really also helps, like if they're, because they want to work on their projects, they're excited, right? So that it makes an easy transition to asynchronous, and then they have something to talk about when they're together.
That's great. And Tara, thanks for putting Jeff's name in the chat box so anybody who's not familiar with him or his work can look him up. Abby, let's talk a little bit more specifically about a lesson that you've used before on Listenwise and what the strategy was around it. I'm going to share my screen and go to the site while we talk about this. Okay. All right. So I'm just on the current events page right now. Tell me about how you choose stories, what you're looking for, what you use most often, and then maybe we can drill down on one that you recently used with your students.
So I usually use the search bar and just go and look for the elementary level, and Lexile level, and lower Lexile level.
Even lower.
Well, actually, like low to medium. So I usually just do the check boxes for low to medium.
Yeah, well, if we look here, you're teaching through K through 4, right?
4th, yeah.
So it could be as high as 1250.
1250. Yeah, so low. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay. So, or you could slide the bar like this.
Right.
And then
that's actually a great feature. I didn't know that was there.
Okay.
Thanks, Monica. And my kids love the weird news. Those are their favorites.
Yeah, if you're not familiar with these, I'm going to play one in a moment, but they're very, very short. They're 30 seconds long. They're packed with vocabulary. We chose, to focus on the vocabulary for the teaching lesson, but you're going to hear from Abby another way to use it. I've heard many ways to use weird news that I never would have imagined. And I'll say that as a company, when we were wanting to find a way to add these, because I just love these stories and I knew kids would too, we were thinking, well, what is what's the teaching out of it? What happens? And we've learned so much from just putting them out there with one way to do it, that there are multiple ways to do it. Now, why do you use these stories?
So I love them because they are short and engaging, and especially when I only have a half an hour to meet with my students, it's enough time for us to be able to listen to it multiple times and still get the content and to make sure that they are engaged the entire time. So yeah, those I love them because they're just silly and usually fun stories for them.
All right, I'm going to look up one you said you recently used about skateboarding.
Yeah, so our project that we're working on right now with our 2nd through 4th graders is a how-to project. So they're choosing something to teach us how to do, and they're going to do just a quick Flipgrid video, but we're focusing just on biographies and other experts to see how other experts are doing things. So I thought this would be a fun way to tie it in with an engaging story about a child, also an 11-year-old, who is an expert. So we listened to the story, and I like to use the slower featured because.
Okay, well let me play it through once just so everybody can hear it, and then they'll get a much better understanding of how well this worked in your classroom. And it's only 30 seconds. So here we go.
Good morning, I'm Rachel Martin. Feeling kind of uninspired being stuck at home? Take a lesson from 11-year-old B. Curry. He's used this opportunity to shred world records on his skateboard. This week, Curry became the first skateboarder to land a 1080-degree spin. That means he made 3 full rotations in the air. Not even pro legend Tony Hawk has managed that. Making the most of quarantine, and it sounds way more fun than sourdough starter.
So it always gets a giggle. And you say you use the slower version. So over here to the right is just a toggle switch. This slows it down by about 20%. I'll just play a tiny bit. It is still synchronized with the transcript.
Good morning, I'm Rachel Martin. Feeling kind of uninspired being stuck at home?
So you get a sense of what it sounds like slowed down. Okay, so carry on. Then what did you do with this lesson, with this listening?
So we were using a strategy, well, sort of a modified strategy of a scaffolded retell. So the first time we listened to it together, and I present it, and we listened to it together in the slow format, and I have the transcript visible for them, and they just listen to it, and they don't have to do anything else, just listen quietly. And then after we finish it, then they can ask any clarifying questions, so any vocabulary that they didn't understand, any jokes that maybe they didn't understand. And actually we just did it today with my 4th graders, and I kept waiting for them to ask about what sourdough starter was, and they didn't ask. But then at the end, that was the only thing that they didn't include. So anyway, we listened to it once, and then they listened to it a second time, and then the 3rd time they have to recreate it themselves. So this is preparation for in California, our proficiency test includes a retell where they have to listen to a scientific or a fictional story, and then they have to retell it in their own words. So this is great practice for that. And they can retell it in their own words. It doesn't have to be verbatim. And they did a great job today with just getting the main ideas and getting the good morning, and I'm Rachel, and they said feeling tired of being stuck at home. And then they didn't say word for word take a lesson, but this 11-year-old is a really good skater, and he beat the record that Tony Hawk couldn't even do. He made 3 360s in the air. So they were getting all of the content and saying it in their own words, which I feel is super valuable. And I love that they're saying it in their own words, and it's super engaging because they have to participate. They can't just turn off. They're expected to produce it in their own words. So I love it as a strategy. And then as they get further along, then they will have to rewrite the whole content, what they hear, without having the access to the transcript. But that's later on. Right now, we're just practicing getting the main ideas. Tara, do you want to add anything to that?
No, that's pretty much it. That came from Stephen Weiss. It's kind of an oral version of a text reconstruction.
Excellent. Did you use the vocabulary words at all? And how hard were these words for your students?
So they got, for uninspired, they said, when they were repeating it in their own words, they said tired. So I actually didn't give it to them. I wanted to see like how much they would get just on their own. And then if they ask for clarification, then I will explain the words. But my goal was just to try to get them to say it in their own words without me helping them, and letting them ask for clarification if they needed it. And they got the rotation. They figured out that it was 360 turns. So that was exciting.
So they would
Yeah.
often say turns, not rotations.
Yeah, yeah.
But tired is a great synonym for
Right.
uninspired. I mean,
Right, right,
shows a high level of understanding on their part.
right.
Yeah, what's amazing is how many academic words there are in these stories, no matter how short or long they are. This is under 30 seconds, and it's got 3 juicy academic language, academic vocabulary words. And if you were to go to a longer story, a lesson story, where we pull out the vocabulary and tier it, it's just it's so many, dozens in a 3, 4, or 5 minute story. So great way to expose them in the context of an interesting, engaging audio story. And obviously incidental exposure like this seemed to work well because the students knew what these words meant, these advanced vocabulary words meant. So that's great. Thanks for sharing that. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing. And is there anything else you wanted to show on this or talk about before I do that?
I don't think so. I think that later on, I will have them be doing independent work. But for right now, I'm doing it exactly the way we just did, where I present it to the students. So.
And you don't have them do any online at this point, making assignments or interacting with it online?
Not yet. We had done it before COVID. They had done it in class with me, and then we had scaffolded it so that they were gradually able to do it independently. But we haven't gotten there yet this year.
Okay.
The middle school and high schools, though, in our district do use it that way.
Yeah. Okay, great. So we just have a couple minutes left, and I want to make sure we have time to hear your tips and tricks and other things you've learned that work well in remote. Could be a teaching strategy, or it could be something as simple as the way you start your day with your students that seem to work. Abby, why don't you tell us some, and then Tara, I'm sure you've heard from other teachers in the district what's working and what's not. We're all hungry to know.
Personally, for me, I just found that what has worked really well is just being able to build those relationships with the students and keeping small groups if possible. Like, I know for some teachers in some districts that's just not possible, but having small groups has really allowed me to build strong relationships with my students. I actually feel like I know them better now than I did in school because we just have this face-to-face time so much more.
That's interesting. Wow, you feel like you're connecting with them more, through Zoom. Yeah, interesting. Tara?
Yeah, I just would add that now that the kids are used to getting on and they're used to having their video on and they're used to talking and expressing themselves, like, we're just seeing a lot more language out of English learners. I will say it helps that we have small class sizes for ELD. So one of the questions I saw in the chat was kind of how do you get them in and out of those breakout rooms so quickly? Well, if we're only having 12 kids in the class, it's pretty easy. You can just put them in and then shuffle them, and it happens. We actually use Google Meet, so they have like some automatic shuffling features. Some teachers like that, so no. But you can manually put them in the groups too. But I think just now that the kids are used to it and feeling comfortable talking, we just require them to talk to each other a lot, and we just figured we have to make this work, so we are.
That's great to hear that you're getting more language out of your ELs and remote, and I'm sure some of that, I'm not sure, but it might have to do with the less fear of speaking at the front of the classroom, or even speaking, when you're in a small breakout room, it's a safer place. And even I feel, when I'm on my computer alone, it does feel sort of a safer space than public speaking in a classroom, let's say, standing up and sharing your ideas. So that's really encouraging. Great. Great. Well, I'm going to do one last share of my screen just to let everybody know that if you're interested in Listenwise and you want to try it out for yourself, if you don't already have it, you can get Listenwise across your entire school with this equitable learning discount. We're really trying to meet schools where they are to help them, do high level quality, engaging teaching with your ELs in this really difficult time. So put your email in the chat box if you're interested in that, and we'll contact you. And we're also have been recording this, and we can send you the slides so you're able to review it, share it. And we just, really thank you for coming tonight. And I especially want to thank Abba and Tara. I just gave you a new name. I just shipped you.
She's the dancing queen.
Abby and Tara. Thank you both. Really appreciate it. And any last words and encouragement for our teachers attending today?
Keep it up.
The hard work.
Keep it up. I love it.
You can do it.
Keep up the hard work. You can do it. Good luck. Thank you, everyone, for coming.